Marvel's Wolverine director departs Insomniac to take charge of Perfect Dark. Assassin's Creed will reportedly get a new game every 6 months for a decade, and Call of Duty Black Ops 6 breaks record for Game Pass subscriptions. All of that on the TripleJump Gaming News. Well, here we are again with some gaming news, and a few big ones this week, and a few ones that I think are a bit misconstrued in terms of what we're actually hearing. But starting off, Marvel's Wolverine director has departed to take charge of Perfect Dark.
Yes.
It was previously being directed by, there's so many names on my list.
Brian Horton.
Thank you so much. And he has
As in
left.
he heard a who.
As he heard a who. He's left the direction of Wolverine and he's gone over to Xbox's Perfect Dark. Really defected from the Sony bandwagon.
How dare he? That's the thing, right? I think we often lose sight of the fact that these people are just people who want a job.
Yeah.
It's console allegiance will not have factored into this person's decision
Absolutely
in
not.
the slightest. It's interesting as well because this article actually talks about the people who will be stepping up to replace him, that being Mike Daly and Marcus Smith, who both have credits on Spider-Man and Ratchet and Clank as well. So the headline, I feel like a lot of these headlines have been sort of, maybe as you were alluding to there, making it sound a bit doom and gloom. Like the guy who was running Wolverine, he's flipped the bird to Sony. He's gone to Xbox, and they got the Ratchet and Clank developers
which is crazy
to do Wolverine.
I think it's so funny that like the headline is that they're the Ratchet and Clank developers, and not the fact that they have both previously been creative director and director for all of the Spider-Man games.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you guys know, have been hugely successful and fantastic.
Really, and also the most recent Ratchet and Clank game was phenomenal as well.
Yeah, it was exactly. But the way that it's been worded online is like. The
thing is, it's spinning a relatively normal just change of jobs into an actual headline. So it's worth diving into and talking about. Obviously, Marcus Smith and Mike Daly, highly qualified, and I'm sure Wolverine will be fine. It was impacted by the leaks recently.
Yes.
But outside of that, we actually know nothing about it.
No, it was announced 3 years ago, along with Spider-Man 2. And we haven't heard anything about it since. We've seen no gameplay, we've seen no more follow-up trailers. The only thing we've heard is from the leak. So things are still ticking away and, moving forward, but...
Do you think this indicates that there may be some trouble involved?
I don't know, because they just say, the insiders, the sources, just say that it was due to creative decisions surrounding the game. So if the two guys that made fantastic superhero games, some of the best superhero games ever, are the ones to take it on from somebody who just didn't have the same, creative vision as everyone else, then I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's interesting it's happening so far into development.
Yeah.
That's my only concern, is that this isn't happening when they've just started making the game. This is happening 3 years after it was announced, so probably 6 years after they started developing it.
Yeah.
So that is the interesting thing about it.
It's true. We don't know the full details. Hopefully it doesn't mean it's in trouble, but something that a lot of the articles don't actually go into is what a get this is for the Perfect Dark reboot as well.
Absolutely.
Because I had a little look at Brian Horton. He's obviously had credits on Wolverine, which is now, He worked on Spider-Man 1 and Miles Morales. Yeah. And before that, he worked on the recent Tomb Raider trilogy.
Which I love.
And
Big,
also
huge fan.
Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. So he's got first-person shooter experience as well. So this is only means good things for Perfect Dark, for sure.
But also, Perfect Dark was apparently quite far into development as well, and they've now also got another.
So it could just be inconsequential. So, it could be significant. It could be inconsequential. Either way, it's just a man getting a different job.
And congrats to him.
Congratulations.
In a world where people are being fired all the time, I'm glad everyone seems to have a job
and
still.
Smith and Daly as well, stepping up to lead what is probably a very anticipated superhero game as well. I'm sure that'll be great.
I think it's in good hands, and I think that just calling them the Ratchet and Clank guys is
it's a bit of an injustice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But the big story that's come out of this week is that Assassin's Creed will reportedly be...
That feels like Spider-Man, but it's the hidden blade.
I thought you were doing Spider-Man until you started stabbing, which Spider-Man
But then I also
went,
it sounded a bit...
Yeah, you did. It's fine. Look, we all knew what it... And either way, relevant. So that's fine.
Now,
and apparently we're getting a new game every 6 months for the next decade, which is... insane.
That's bonkers. There's all sorts of insider sources here. Ubisoft, as we know from all of the headlines in the past 6 months, are a publisher in trouble. They, I think by a sizable margin, apart from the super mega Xbox Acti, Bethesda, everything that they've absorbed, I think Ubisoft, in terms of being one of the last standing traditional publishers, dwarfs everyone else in terms of the staff, the headcount that they have across the world.
Yep.
So them being in trouble obviously poses a huge threat to an awful lot of jobs.
Yep.
Assassin's Creed, probably the most bankable franchise. I know people crying out for, please give me another Ghost Recon, please give me another, what's it called, Division. People love the Division as well.
And Shadows obviously got delayed from November to February, and there's all these reports of it's not coming out on time, but it is coming out on time. So there's everything going on at Ubisoft is a bit weird at the moment. But insider Tom Henderson went on a podcast to talk about Assassin's Creed.
Yes.
What did he have to say about it?
He said, let's see. He said they've got Assassin's Creed Shadows, they've also got Assassin's Creed Invictus next year, Assassin's Creed Hex, Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake, and they plan to do a new Assassin's Creed every 6 months or so for the next 10 years, I believe. That means that we could potentially, over the next decade, get 20 Assassin's Creed games.
Which is an insane amount.
Now, to be fair, devil's advocate here, we don't know the size of these. Some of them could be mobile games.
Yeah.
Some of them could be free-to-play things that are of little consequence that come and go with no one really realising.
Yeah.
But if we're getting a full-bodied Assassin's Creed game every 6 months, that is unlikely but insane.
We were getting one pretty regularly for like every year.
Yeah.
Ish. They're kind of in the same field as like a COD, in that every year you're going to get a new one of some kind, and varying sizes. Like we had Mirage, which was a lot smaller than, say, the Viking one, which I always forget the name of. Valhalla. Thank you. I always forget the subtitles. But yeah, like they're varying sizes. We haven't obviously seen how big Shadows is yet, but knowing Ubisoft, probably a bit big. And like you say, we have no idea whether they're going to be mobile games, what they're going to be, and how they're going to work. So this could very much just be like, this is Assassin's Creed Mobile. You run around and you do a little like match 3 games to play Assassin's Creed, and that could be it. But also, I don't see this being true at all.
It could. I would not only consider it a bit far-fetched, but also if there is any truth to it, unwise. Quite frankly, the way that Ubisoft are going, there may not be an Ubisoft in 10 years.
Yeah.
This might be a sort of Hail Mary, throw everything at the wall, let's see what sticks kind of deal.
Yeah.
If they go private and get purchased, we don't know if that will probably affect things as well. So it's unlikely that this plan will ever be seen through to fruition if indeed it is real.
Yeah.
But it's I don't want 2 Assassin's Creed games a year. At face value, I don't want 2 Assassin's Creed games every year.
No, he also said that there's a bunch of titles currently unannounced, including a Ghost Recon game, a Far Cry 7, a Rayman title, another extraction shooter, and which is called Far Cry Maverick, apparently. So there's going to be like, there's apparently loads in the work at Ubisoft, which is understandable because, like you say, they are a massive company. They have so many different smaller companies that work for them. So it's not unbelievable that they're working on all these things at the same time. But I do find it very, very far-fetched to have a new game every 6 months from just one franchise. If you were to say like, oh, they're putting a game out every 6 months, but there's a variety of franchises that we're covering, okay, I could kindly see that coming. However, 20 Assassin's Creed games, what are you going to do them all on?
That's at least 15 too many.
That absolutely
across
is.
10 years.
Absolutely. What eras could we possibly be moving into now?
Well, you have to bear in mind that we're talking about the same company that just released an NFT game in
true,
2024.
The Web3 game. Yeah.
So who knows?
Who knows what's going on over there?
Who bloody knows what they're going to do?
There's a gas leak in the Ubisoft headquarters, they're doing it all.
They're the bloody Far Cry Mavericks, quite frankly.
I like to imagine the wall of like pictures, and they're like, and then another Assassin's Creed game, and another Assassin's Creed game, and it's just going mental. But
I think it's a bit like Abstergo. When you go into Abstergo Entertainment in one of the Assassin's Creed games, but the assassins have infiltrated, so every time they get a new development lead and they're working on a new project, someone like jumps out and goes, "Wah!" and like hidden blades them, and then they have to start a new project. Oh God, it's like the bloody Hydra, we're cursed. Every time you kill off a project, 2 more Assassin's Creed games spring up in its place.
Oh dear.
Let's talk about our final news story.
Yes, let's.
Call of Duty Black Ops 6 breaks records for Game Pass subscriptions. This is not surprising.
Absolutely not.
But good news, I suppose.
Yes, we've been speculating for a while about like whether it will be enough like to have Call of Duty coming out, whether that will drive Game Pass subscriptions, and apparently it has quite substantially. Apparently, according to Activision, they've sold 500 million copies of the Assassin's Creed franchise over like since this month.
What are we talking about? Call of Duty?
Sorry, Call of Duty. My brain's off.
You
today.
okay?
I think I'm having a stroke.
So
Help me out.
they've sold half
half a billion copies of Call of Duty, like over all the games.
That is mental.
That's crazy, isn't it?
That is
it's
insane.
like surpassed some of the bigger franchises. Not quite hit Mario levels yet, though.
That's still bloody bonkers.
But this has done really well.
Yes. CEO Satya Nadella shared that Black Ops 6 was the biggest Call of Duty release ever. I mean, when aren't they? That always feels like that's what's said. Set a new record for day one players and for Game Pass subscriber ads on launch day, implying that the move to bring Call of Duty Day 1 to get Xbox Game Pass proved beneficial for the subscription service. Apart from attracting new Xbox Game Pass subscribers, Black Ops 6 has also experienced stronger sales than the last time, which is not surprising because Modern Warfare 3 was not very good, with 60% more copies sold across Steam and PlayStation year on year. I suppose totally expected, but what I would like to know though is how many additional Game Pass subscribers? What was the actual uptick? Because for a long time we've heard that subscriber numbers have been stagnating.
Absolutely.
And also, how does that account for lost sales on Xbox where they would have traditionally had players buying them?
Yeah.
That is where they're really going, because I know they've got the long-term strategy, right?
Yes.
The goal is to take a hit now, but have people paying monthly forever.
And as Phil says, make every screen an Xbox.
Make every screen an Xbox. But in the immediate short term, how many years can they afford to, I mean, they're Microsoft, they can afford to do it forever. But how many years, realistically, if a little budget man comes in and goes, can I see those figures, please? How many years is the little budget man going to allow them to take a hit by putting it on Game Pass versus just selling it to Xbox consumers?
But the thing is, we've been saying this for a long time. We've been asking this question for a long time. And it's starting to feel like maybe it's fine. Like I don't really understand how, and I'm not going to pretend I could understand the logistics even if they were placed in front of me, but I feel like maybe it's all, when I say fine, they did lay off like thousands of employees.
They have laid off thousands of people.
However, it seems to be a model that's working. They're not shifting it. They're not changing things. Their first-party huge titles like COD Blops 6 are coming out on Game Pass. So one would assume that it's fine.
Well, this is the debate, isn't it? It's the sustainable versus the profitable. We don't know if it's profitable. We know it's sustainable because they can afford to pump as much money into it as they want. But are they making that money back? I don't know. We've had mixed statements over the years. We've never had hard figures. I'm very interested to know if this is actually going to turn the tide.
Yeah.
Either way, though, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is really good, and we've both been enjoying it. We're actually going to review it on the podcast tomorrow. Little reminder that something you'll hear about on the podcast, we're moving to a brand new dedicated podcast channel. There'll be a link in the description below, so go and subscribe there if you want to catch future episodes of the podcast. And also follow us on our socials, where we post daily news there, as well as wrapping it up here and also talking about it on said podcast. So there we are. Another news video done. Smashed it, I think.
Apart from when I messed up all those words. But
That's
just
fine.
pretend it didn't happen.
No one heard that.
All right, no one even heard it.
No one heard that. We'll be taking a week off from doing news next week, despite having just started, but we'll be hitting the ground running again the following week. So we'll see you back in the new studio very soon. Do you want to do the sign-off again?
Sure. And we'll see you very soon.
Later.
Bye.
So what have you got for tea tonight?
Fish and chips.